and this kind of gets to this concept of, are there DevOps teams, and what is DevOps, and what's a DevOps engineer, and it's kind of really no such thing. It's really about a process and a way of doing things, a culture. But when you talk about continuous delivery, Bryan, is this across the entire DevOps life cycle? So including infrastructure as code and, Azure and possibly AWS for some different organizations. Do you help these groups throughout that process, or do you focus on some specific processes, or does it matter where that team is?
Well, first you have to, my definition of continuous delivery plays into this answer, right? So my definition is the ability to go from idea to end user and get feedback as rapidly as possible. And that means that everything has to change to shrink that cycle. And when we're working with teams, we'll go look at what it is that's creating problems to make that loop too big. And a lot of the times it's how the team works. But sometimes the team could be working just fine, but they have constraints outside, and then it's trying to clear those constraints. And so you're looking at the entire value stream and trying to improve the entire value stream. So it's not just CI. And it's definitely not the automation, because automation is super easy. It's everything around it that's preventing us from delivering.
We have a few people on the call, and in my world, I know there's no kind of one end or the other end of DevOps, but a lot of people are saying the big problem they need help with now is on the infrastructure as code side.
Yeah.
Building, destroying, instances. And they go further and say, and these are all, people who are very immersed in DevOps. That's the last remaining great problem in DevOps, and it's very tough to do. The application building side and the containerization side, they feel they have a better grip on. Can you shed some light on that, if you think that's true, or maybe you disagree, which is fine.
I agree it's a struggle. I don't know if it's the biggest struggle, but I agree it's a struggle. I don't have an answer. The only thing I could say is that when that becomes the biggest constraint to delivery, then why are we tackling it, right? Why? It's not that it's hard. It's just a problem to solve, right? So we need to solve the problem. But in most of the examples that I've seen, it's not the biggest problem we have.
It's not.
No, not yet. It's if you're trying to speed up delivery and make things better, you have to go in constraint sequence, and usually it's understanding the work. Okay. There's one other thing I wanted to add about CD. I think it's super important, and I always try to stress to teams that CD is not about feature delivery. I've had people talk to me about how, our customers don't need to deliver that rapidly, so we don't need to focus on continuous delivery. Continuous delivery is about stability, and it's about fixing production fast. And it's about fixing production fast with safety in a way that you've practiced, and you practice that by delivering features every single day. And that's why continuous delivery, and that's why it's for every single value stream and not just for unicorn things here and there.
I did follow your work with Jane Grohl at the DevOps Institute, and you talked very in depth about value stream mapping and the value of that. Can you kind of, you talked for an hour on it, but can you give us a few minutes on kind of how you do that, how you sell that it's something worth doing, et cetera, to the group here?
Yeah, actually, I noticed we have somebody from Microsoft. Similar processes we stole from Microsoft. So number one, value stream mapping is key to any sort of improvement process, because if you're just improving things because it feels good, it may not matter at all, and you may be making things worse. But if you're trying to identify what's broken in the system, you have to analyze the entire system. And so value stream mapping is that process of going through step by step by step of the processes to go from idea to production and find out where the problems are. Yeah, I agree. VS Code, by the way, is my favorite thing. And the thing we stole from Microsoft is working backwards from delivery back to idea. There's lots of good reasons to do that. But if you identify how long it takes to do each thing, what the wait time is between each thing, and how often you have to reject work from the previous step, you can start seeing patterns where, we do 2 code reviews. Okay, well, why do you do 2 code reviews? Each code review takes 3 hours for some reason, and you've got a wait time of a day between code reviews because someone's waiting to end up. Why wasn't the first code review sufficient? And why do you have to wait a day for someone to do code review? And why is the code change so big that it takes 3 hours to do code review? And you can start identifying some common issues really rapidly. The value we see, it's actually the teams report they see value when they do this process with us because they say, wow, we now see the reality of where the pain is. We can get an idea of where to start trying to tackle the pain. So even if we're not working with a team to try to improve that value stream, we will value stream map the team and say, look, this is where your pain is. Come to us when you need some help, right? And it's a pretty easy sell. It takes us, we've got a process where I need a product team, we can get it done in about 3 or 4 hours to give them a starting point. And we've never had anyone say, well, this is a waste of time.
Do you do that in do you, one, have a tool that helps you do that, and in kind of a Kaizen format?
So we're using Lucid Chart right now, though a friend of mine at Raytheon is building a tool that's on the Dojo Consortium GitHub. It's part of it. He's got a bigger platform for engaging with teams, but having a value stream mapping tool is part of that. I just haven't had a chance to pull it down and get it configured so it works inside my company. I think having a tool to try to automate it today is especially important because we're remote. And a lot of times we've been doing it's on whiteboards. You can't do that in a remote environment. So we're using Lucid Chart. It's kind of clunky for that. The tool would make it better for sure.
Yeah, I looked at a tool called Plutora. So they essentially provided a Kaizen format in a virtual environment. Let's see, I'm going to read this. Someone else gave me this question. I'm going to read it. They love that your LinkedIn profile says deploy more and sleep better.
Yes.
But many of us have still not reached this point. He writes. How is this possible to sleep more when deployments are way up? How can you have more deployments and not lose customers via service quality?
So the number one thing is you deploy more, sleep better, but the team owns quality. And when I say the team owns their capability, the team owns their quality, and by ownership I mean that you feel the pain when it's bad. One of the key anti-patterns to quality is having somebody else take care of support for you, so you can just throw it over the wall. And if you're not getting feedback about poor quality and you're not feeling the impact of poor quality, why would quality improve? But by deploying more, that means that batch size is smaller. Smaller batches are harder to hide defects in. I've got a slide presentation where I say that every haystack has needles, but if you build a smaller haystack, it's easier to find the needles, and it's going to have fewer needles. Ultimately, a single strand of hay and one needle, really easy to find the needle. It's just easier to inspect for quality in smaller batches. So if the team owns the quality and the team is delivering it in a decreasing cycle time, quality improves. There was a question that popped up on chat that I thought, let's see, and I was talking.
I'll read it to the group. It's from Jay Gordon at Microsoft. No relation. We only live 40 or 50 miles apart. Jay asked Bryan, do you think dojos are about information or confidence?
Dojos are about teaching teams how to improve. It's about getting them on the path of what's possible and showing them what's possible. You know, when you have a team that's used to delivering a story every 2 weeks, and you show them that no, really, you can get this done in like a day and a half or 2 days, and showing them how to decompose work and showing them just what's possible and improvement is possible, and that their lives start getting better, then you set them on the path for future improvement. You get them excited about improving daily work instead of just doing a grind.
Interesting. In our meetings, we talk a lot about information sharing. We talk about building a culture, etc. And it's interesting how it's probably a lot of these things. So you've done a little bit of this, but a question came in. Can you walk us through a high-level process that you would feel would be best practice for companies trying to accelerate transformation?
You know, my wife and I have talked a little bit about this at DevOps Enterprise Summit, and we're actually expanding on some of the things that are key. Number one, you have to have people interested in improving at the grassroots, in having a community and growing that community organically to build an excitement and share learnings to each other as peers, I think is incredibly important. You've got to have support from the top. You have to have the top not only just saying, hey, we want to improve, but actively pushing, I need these things to improve, right? In a metrics-driven way, right? You need to have the observability of the metrics for delivery to see that things are improving. You have to be disciplined about those. It can't be a, hey, this quarter, let's pull the metrics. And you have to have information radiators up showing this is what's changing day to day, right? You have to have people who know how to get it done, who are there to show other people who don't. I mean, technical coaching is a thing, and I think it's a thing here to stay. You know, Google does it for sure. I know many other companies have technical coaching on multiple disciplines. You know, it's interesting. When my team started up, about 18 months later, I had a chance to talk to Mike Bland, who was at Google, and helped start the Test Mercenaries, which operate very similar to what my team does, but focused on testing, where my team's focusing on CD. And you have to have people showing people how to get it done, because it doesn't scale for every team to figure it out on their own. And you just have to grow that environment of, and a platform that supports it, right? You have to have tools that make the right thing easy and make the wrong thing difficult. Mm-hmm. It takes time to grow a platform that makes the right thing easy and the wrong thing difficult. But a common platform, I think, is key. So if you have a common delivery platform, you can inject quality, you can inject compliance, you can make it so that the stuff that must not be forgotten won't be forgotten. But it has to be built in such a way so that the teams have the freedom to own the pipelines, that they configure the pipelines for their particular problems, but they can't forget the critical stuff. And it takes time to grow all that stuff, but I think it's key. If you're missing one of those things, you're going to struggle. You'll definitely struggle if you don't have top-down support and bottom-up support. You've got to squeeze out the middle.
So a team comes in to Dojo, and they do value stream mapping, and they walk away with bursts and ways to improve the process, and maybe some tools. And how often do they come back?
So when we're doing a Dojo engagement, I mean, we're working daily with the team for 6 weeks, but it's not the only thing we do. We have teams coming to us on Slack all the time, asking for help on everything. I had somebody today asking me for help on configuring a node for more memory, for more end-to-end testing. And I told them do less end-to-end testing, and so they come to us about anything in the value stream, asking us questions constantly, from all over the world. Right? And so it's customer support. We're just supporting teams with whatever struggles they have at all times.
Terrific. many teams do you think you support? Is that actually something you can put a metric on? How many teams do you think you support overall, whether it's high frequency or once a year?
I haven't counted which teams I'm getting requests from. I know that we get requests from across the globe. But I don't have a hard number on how many teams are talking to us versus how many teams are not. It's sometimes very difficult to track, especially if you're interacting like spur of the moment on Slack. I'm not saying open a ticket. I would rather not say open a ticket just for my metrics.
Right.
I'd rather just help them. That way it's less drag. So I don't actually have data on that. I do know that we have a lot of teams who interact with us frequently.
So here's another question on the CD thread. How would you recommend? What would you recommend at the rate of acceptable change in deployment intervals and cycles, and how voluminous are they for a company that may have 400 service apps and 40 key ones? So,
what's an acceptable delivery frequency for a company to think? Yeah. The goal, if I had, how many teams is that?
He said it's probably in low hundreds of teams or something that size.
Well, I think at least once a day per team is a good rate. The thing, you're talking something earlier about how do you deliver that frequently and not lose customers. So you still have change management and continuous delivery. By change management, I mean the management of when customers see the change, right? You're delivering all the time, and that doesn't mean the customers are seeing change all the time. You want to be very careful about any user-facing change. It's a changing user experience. You have to manage that very carefully. Back-end change, you can roll that out all the time as long as it doesn't impact the user in any way that causes them to change the user experience. Okay? Mm-hmm. But the more frequently you're changing, the faster you find out if you're wrong. Everyone talks about agile development, but they never really talk about the goal of agile development, which is to find out as rapidly as possible whether we made a mistake about the assumptions we were making when we built this thing. And the faster you're delivering, the smaller the mistake is. The faster you find out. Mm-hmm. So I don't really see an upper limit on speed. It's as fast as you can.
Okay. We started to get into this, and I'd like to add, this is a fairly complex question, but I'd love for the group to throw out some questions after this one, either pull yourself off mute, which I think is possible, or the chat box is good. About big companies, big enterprises, which you're very familiar with, handling legacy applications. Mm-hmm. In a world that's moving from private cloud to public cloud, and the ratio of new cloud application development and microservices versus legacy application development, and are the guys who are doing legacy application development, are they starting to do more agile development and deployment, even if they're using idle type processes? So I clubbed a couple questions there together, but I think you know what I'm getting at.
I think that any enterprise that's got a bunch of legacy needs to focus on how do we make this legacy faster to deliver. And the strangler pattern is something everyone's going to point to about how do we take this 25-year-old mess of stuff that was developed with Jenga-driven development that's super fragile, and how do we make it so that we can break it up to deliver faster? And I'll tell you that trying to organize teams around the capabilities that that thing is delivering and assigning them pieces of that application and start peeling it apart is key. One of the mistakes I've seen some areas or companies make is they'll say, well, we're going to go and we're going to do the agile thing. We're going to break up into two-person teams, and they create these two-person teams where everybody's working on the entire giant monolith instead of segmenting that monolith up into you own this portion of the monolith, make it better, right? you start by assigning teams the capabilities of that monolith, and then assigning the activity of pulling their capability out of the monolith and breaking it up. A big mistake that a company can make is to say, okay, well, we've got this terrible monolith and it's awful, so what we're going to do is in 5 years we'll just replace it and then start rewriting it. That never will work. You'll never catch up. That monolith is running your business, and you don't know what it does. Because if you did know what it did, it would be fully tested, it'd be easy to break apart.
Mm-hmm.
And so you need to evolve it into better. And if you have new things that are unrelated to that, then you do new things the new way. You evolve the old thing as new requests come in to make it better. And if you have some system that's old and it's not changing very often, just surround it in a moat of API and leave it alone, because it's dangerous to change it unless you test it first.
Mm-hmm.
So it depends.
Yeah. Are you seeing transformation of idle processes into the agile processes and into a DevOps culture? Or are you seeing more, hey, that's an idle type process and app, let's leave it alone, it's doing its job?
I think idle 4 is trying to become more DevOpsy.
Yeah.
So I think idle's coming this way.
Yeah. They want to, for sure.
Yeah. It's also, this is totally unrelated, but I rant against frameworks all the time. I call myself a safe cracker because of how much scaled agile framework has impeded me in the past. And it's interesting, the Air Force just released, they had a thing about don't use safe. Nothing new uses safe. And then SAFE went to the Pentagon to talk about how they can make it better. And basically the Air Force is telling them make it better by being able to do DevOps. and not couple teams together with value streams. With release trains, that sort of thing. So it'll be interesting to see how these old frameworks evolve, or whether they just kind of evolve into not existing anymore.
Yeah. So to trace back to something we actually started the Fireside Chat with, it's a tough question. Doing DevOps and doing DevOps better, clearly big companies have taken various approaches of a dojo or evangelist or breaking things into small teams or just some teams doing it. But for you, is it a top-down mandate? Are you socializing it and going out and selling what you're doing to the enterprise? And some evidence around the best proactive way to move people to a transformation and to better DevOps processes? Or have you gotten to the point where they come to you and you're kind of prioritizing and managing their needs? You might have frozen there.
All of that.
All of that.
And one of the things I tell people is that we have to always be closing. We have to always be selling to people who aren't trying to do it why it's better. That's the reason why I have deployed more sleep better, is that not only is it true, but that's how we try to sell it. I know it's better because I've lived that way on a team doing it. This is not some theoretical thing I talk about. I've delivered code this way, and it's better for development teams. So I can speak with authenticity to say, your life will improve if you work this way. And these things will be better. Please trust me. And then if they don't believe me, then we just go help other teams make their lives better and say, see, their lives are better now. And to sell, you have to have that top down, because the top down is the thing that changes management. If management doesn't change, it doesn't matter how much we try to help the teams, because management will either say, well, we can't deliver fast because you're trying to change, or they want to deliver better, but they incentivize teams in ways that impede that because they don't understand how it all works. And they're unless they have top-down push that we need to make these things better. And when that happens, we have managers coming to us asking for help about how to make things better. And for those areas, we will flood them with help as soon as I have a manager coming to ask for help, because we know that we have an area that's ripe for improvement. And like I said, you have to build the excitement at grassroots. You have to be selling all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So training, evangelism, working with leadership to try to help them. In my company, I've handed out 6 cases of the Coal Forest Group's Accelerate to try to help those the leadership, especially senior leadership, understand what it is we're trying to get done. Because they talk about it, they try to do conference-driven development, but they need to know the information of what reality looks like so that they don't accidentally drive it backwards.
I am soliciting questions from the group, so anything occurs to you guys, I know you're thinking out there, put it on the chat, or I'm off mute, I guess. But I do have a question. As the remote, work necessity of what we have to do lately, has that changed the way you're working?
Yeah, it has. On my team also develops an application internally to help teams self-identify what the problems are, because that's really boring for us to answer the same questions. And so here we're going to automate part of our job away. And one of the things we've been practicing is mob programming as a way for us internally to have that situational awareness that we've missed because we're not sitting next to each other anymore. But also as a way to practice some skills that we could use to help pair with the team. So, the next engagement, if we haven't had remote engagement, how do we do remote engagement? And that's something the Dojo Consortium has been working on as well, is because for a long time it's just been this, remote dojo engagements just won't work, and so it's face-to-face, and that's just been the thought process, and now everything's having to change. And so the Dojo Consortium has been running experiments about how do we make for a better remote engagement process. And so there's some challenges, but I'll tell you, at least on my team, the mobbing and pairing online through Zoom has been a really effective way to get work done and with teamwork and not get lost.
Mm-hmm. Perfect. I'll read Fred's question to you, Bryan. What do you consider to be the overall value proposition for CD?
My team's passionate about it because it improves developers' lives. Developers who live better lives, who sleep more, are happier at work, which means they have a higher retention rate. A common thing I've seen my entire career is treating developers like Legos. The problem is that not every Java developer off the street knows your business problem. But people who have been there for a while are experts at your business problem and can solve that problem better and faster. And so higher retention rate of developers, because you have happier developers also prouder about what they do and deliver higher quality. That's all good for the bottom line. And so it's a better way of living for everybody at the company, because you're better for you got happier customers because they have higher quality, they're buying more from you, and you have a higher retention rate with highly motivated, high morale development teams. I can't imagine why anyone would not.
Peter Staples, what is the best practice to ensure the security and compliance requirements are addressed? Very involved with this. Are they just part of this cycle, or is there a way to move them into the development cycle?
Yeah, you absolutely bake them into the platform. I talk to compliance teams and I tell them that if you give me a compliance document and save it somewhere on SharePoint, it doesn't matter. You might come back and audit me later and tell me I'm out of compliance, and I'll just go and figure out how to come into compliance and make you go away. It still doesn't matter. Same with security. If it's not baked into the way we work. So it's not an extra step, but it's a thing that's automated in the pipeline, then it doesn't matter at all. It has to be part of the workflow. And only automating the pipeline really makes sense.
Are you seeing a lot of success in this, or are there conflicts with the security groups? And are you seeing a lot of success with a lot more work to do?
I think it depends on who you're talking to in a security organization. If you've got people that they only know one way, then they'll keep leaning back on whatever the old manual process is. But more and more people are actually seeing that the world is changing, and that security theater manual processes don't actually get you secure. They just allow you to find ways to fire people. That's and making people fearful of their jobs makes you less secure. So maybe if we work more closely with the teams and find ways to automate those things, we'll actually have security instead of just security theater. One example that I have is, for SOX, you're supposed to have two eyes in every single change. Well, the way that that some companies do that is with change boards, which actually increase batch size, reduce quality, and make everything more dangerous. But we have the security theater of we have two eyes in every change. So you just require code review. Well, you can automate the fact that code review happened, and you can bake it in the pipeline in such a way so that you can reject any build that has not had code review to prevent it from delivery, right? And so now you've made it so, okay, well, you forgot, you didn't do code review, you tried to short circuit the system. Well, no deploy for you. Sorry, break the build, right? And so if you just break the build because of violating the compliance and security issue, then things get better. But then you also need to work with them to teach them how to do it better on the front end, so they're not just getting frustrated. And what are we doing to train developers on coding securely? Instead of trying to trap it at the back end. How are we moving everything left to the keyboard?
Mm-hmm. Okay. Hopefully that's helpful, Peter. You might have a follow-up to that. I have my wrap-up question. We've made good time here. And we'll probably come up with some more things to talk about. But so lately, what are the greatest improvements? And the past maybe 6 months. Let's take a really small window, 4 to 6 months. The greatest improvements in DevOps and the CI/CD focus that we're kind of talking about today.
The greatest improvements in the last 6 months?
Yeah.
I don't think things improve that fast in the DevOps space.
Okay.
It's a slog. It takes a long time to, especially any large enterprise, it takes a long time to get anything other than local improvements, right? Because it's just a constant pressure to make things incrementally better. Actually, I would be a little scared if there was some huge leap in improvement, because everything should just be improving in gradual steps. I'm seeing a lot of change external. There's been a lot of tool consolidation, and from the last year anyway, tooling has become so easy that I used to think tooling was like 30% of the problem. I think it's like 10% of the problem now. The rest of it's us. How do we use the tools effectively? How do we learn how to work better as teams and focus on the end goals instead of vanity HR metrics?
Have the people improved in the past couple of years, or have improvements been driven more by process and people working together?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the question.
The skills, the people who are doing this. Is it driven by their individual improvements, or really by putting together a team and building a process?
If you've got one person who's really good, it doesn't matter unless the whole team is coming along. So I think it's really focusing on improving how a team works together as a team, and empowering them to make things better. I had a blog post recently that talked about how to standardize to scale improvement, and I was talking about how teams own that improvement. But that's why it takes so much time, is because you're changing people. I had a friend of mine who used to work at Columbia Sports. He's at Nike now, and we were talking about this. He said, we shouldn't have studied software engineering in college. We should have studied psychology, because we're trying to hack the biggest undocumented API. How do we put things, and so how do we adjust the environment to get things to go better? And I think there was a question earlier that touched on some of this. You don't wait to get good at this and then do it. You start driving down batch size to become good at it. Yeah. Driving down the delivery frequency, to deliver more frequently without losing quality, shows you where the waste in the process is, shows you where your constraints are, and grows really high quality teams. And it is growing teams. I was talking to somebody from Grumman, and they were talking about they have this. They'll build a team up and then tear it down again when they're done because they're running projects. And I said, then don't bother training anybody, because you're not training people, you're training teams to be effective. You would never break up a SEAL team after a mission. You'd send them back to training for another mission. Mm-hmm. And teams deliver, people don't.
Oh, I like that.
Just adding to that, Judge Humble says, if it's painful, do it more often. So
yes.
It helps kind of drive out that bad, as well as, I guess, going to the original question, I agree with Barry. Some of the tooling getting very good. GitHub is doing more on the security side. Microsoft, I think, Azure DevOps is brilliant, but all the cloud providers are providing more tooling. Hopefully that educates the practitioners out a lot more. We're getting, I guess, one of the positive sides of COVID is we're meeting more often virtually and disseminating knowledge more openly. So.
No, I agree. I was talking earlier today at another meeting, and now everyone's local.
Yeah, right.
we're all local. But no, you're exactly right about if it hurts, do it more, because you find out what's making it hurt and you can fix it. Don't hide from the pain, embrace it.
Yeah. So on the note of tooling, right? I found that one effective tool to drive down batch size is the adoption of feature flags. So it used to really blow our developers' minds. How do I fix this like big PR? How do I reduce my PR size so it's not so painful to read, right? So we started doing feature flags, and folks were like, "Oh, wow, okay, you mean I can turn this off in production, and my code is like doesn't break production?"
When we work with teams, what we focus on is real continuous integration. I need you to get closer, anyway, to everyone on the team going to master at least once a day with code that can deploy. And they're like, well, I can't complete a feature today. I'm like, well, you're not completing a feature. You're completing something that becomes a feature. And then they're like, well, how? And then we have feature flags or branch by abstraction, or we should show them all these different ways. I think the biggest struggle we have is the teams are like, well, now I've got all this tech debt from feature flags. And like, well, no, you add a story to the epic to delete the feature flag. Teach them to manage your feature flags. Yeah, and the hardest part for us is trying not to give them the answer. Just lead them to the answer. And we're all senior developers, so we're used to solving problems instead of giving them problems. But that's the hard part, is giving them problems and then waiting for them to get stuck.
Yeah, we in our practices, we will generally deliver a small team to a client to help and work with their dev teams. Yeah. And we do play with adjusting the frequency of the pull requests and the deployments. We like to do once a day, but it is hard for that client, and it's causing we'll go to 3 times a week or something like that.
is we don't instantly get them on CI. We're pushing them to CI. And we're using metrics-based approaches. So we clean up the metrics and then we look through metrics every single day, all the time. And then say, okay, now how do we get closer? How do we get closer? When I first did this on a team as the team lead, I posted the rules for continuous integration straight out of continuous delivery in our area. I said, okay, now today, why can't we do that? Let's solve that problem. And every single day, why can't we do that? And we were focusing on fixing continuous integration while we delivered our application instead of focusing on delivering our application. And eventually we got to, I had metrics showing 12 production deploys a day with just feature requests, little experiments that they wanted to, that the business wanted to run, non-defect fixes. It took us like 6 months to get there with a giant team of about 15 people.
Oh, wow.
So all it takes is focus.
Well, Fred has another question. Does CD reduce the frequency of trial by error?
Well, I mean, all of Agile's trial by error. Trial by error. Well, I mean, you're trying to find out if you're wrong. I'm not sure. Could you clarify?
Yeah. Fred, you take a couple off mute. Maybe I could take Fred off mute. No, Fred, you'd have to take yourself off mute. Or type more.
There you go. I'm sorry. Can you hear me all right?
Yeah.
Yeah, my question has to do with, I work with development teams that don't seem to build the quality in coding. And they do a lot of trial and error and a lot of fixes and a lot of corrections as a result. Is that characteristic of your experience? And does continuous delivery help in that way?
I think continuous delivery exposes the problem more because you can't get batch sizes down very small if you don't understand what the requirements are, and that's a big red flag for requirements that have not been fully vetted out, that they don't have good product ownership representation. And so they're doing a lot of exploratory coding. I mean, that's really what that is. And that was the first hurdle we had to clear when I asked people why they couldn't do continuous integration. I actually interviewed developers in the area, and they said, well, we don't really understand what it is we're building, so we're doing exploratory coding. And I can't test exploratory code, which means it's going to be poor quality. And so anytime I see developers kind of flailing around and trying to guess at what to deliver, that means that the product owner needs to have some speaking to.
Thank you. I think any parting thoughts you want to leave us with, Bryan?
This is hard, and it's totally worth it. You've got to find people who know it's better, that will push, and you have to give them the error cover. I push as hard as I do because I have error cover, and when I lose error cover, I have to stop pushing so hard. You've got to make the teams absolutely aware that they have permission to improve, even if you just don't assume they know that. Tell them that they have permission to improve things. You have to give them some guardrails. Hey, don't try to bring in Haskell unless you're a Haskell shop. Use some supported technologies, but give them permission to improve and give them the room to improve, and understand that yourself, that if you're trying to keep teams 100% utilized, you're failed, because no system that's 100% utilized will ever be able to deliver any sort of quality at anything. Factories aren't 100% utilized. You have to clean them sometimes. That's it. It takes a long time. There's zero silver bullets. at all. They're none. People will sell you silver bullets, but they don't exist. So just dig in for the long haul and make it better. And every day you're not doing it, your competitors are.
Yeah, incremental progress and improvement is kind of a great faith to preach, because everyone can believe it and everyone can do it.
Yeah, I've had people say, well, we're going to start on this. It's probably take us 6 months, but we're going to get this done. And I just laugh and laugh and laugh. I'm like, 6 months. Maybe if you had one team, it'll take you 6 months.
Yeah. Well, I've enjoyed it. I think our community has. I very much appreciate it.
No, I appreciate the opportunity. Thank you.
You're quite welcome. All right.
Just if anybody wants to ask, just talk to me. Happy to talk on LinkedIn anytime.
Yeah, you're very accessible. And you'll be at our New Jersey meetup virtually next month. And probably, I think you're making a presentation. Are you making a presentation somewhere in kind of a large conference stuff? You're not coming up?
So I'm speaking with Roger Servi from Verizon and Stacey Peterson from US Bank about the Mojo Consortium at DevOps Enterprise London.
Right.
I'm also doing a local talk in Dallas that for it's a small invite only gathering that they invited my wife and I to speak about some of these things there. And I have a couple talks out for All Day DevOps and DevOps Enterprise Vegas, but I haven't heard back yet, so we'll see.
All right. Well, I'm sure they will get back to you. Some of them are on this call. All right. See you, folks. Thank you, everybody, for your time. I think it was useful for me. I hope it was useful for the group and you, Brian. Talk to you soon. Have a great.
Thanks so much.
Always take care, Larry.
Bye-bye. See you, Joe.